So very often at Yizkor, I mention that for a lot of people, it might be many years that you've been saying Yizkor, but it might be the first time you're saying Yizkor for a particular person. It might be the first time you're saying Yizkor at all. And I think, though, what makes this Yizkor different is that it's also the first yort site of at least 1,200 people. And it's just devastating to think that. And also I look at all the people who we're still praying for. We don't know if this is a Yizkor for them. We don't know if they're coming home. I feel like all we have is questions, and we don't even know what to ask. And so what I'd like to share, something I've been thinking about, is that when we don't know what the questions are, Judaism actually gives us the questions and a way of thinking about things that are so difficult. And I think each holiday gives us a set of questions that can maybe help us not to make sense out of our grief, but to give us a path toward at least meeting it, at least finding a way to handle it. So I'm going to go through the holidays of the year and just talk about what questions they ask. I'm not giving you any answers because those will come from within, but when you know what question to ask, then things can emerge. So Pesach is the very first holiday of the year, and the questions that it asks us are, when are you stuck in a bad situation? Pesach is the holiday of stuckness. How did you get stuck? With whom did you get stuck? And do you need to get unstuck? And how do you do that? Shavuot is, who are you as an individual within a community? One of the things I wrestle with is, how do I stay myself and how do I stay part of a community at the same time? It's kind of easy to do one or the other. It's kind of easy to just do whatever you want. It's also kind of easy just to go along with whatever the community is doing. How do you do both of these? Tisha B'Av, who are you when everything falls apart? Who are you when your view of reality crumbles? Is that an opportunity for new beginnings? Because Tisha B'Av is right before Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah is the question of, how do you handle new beginnings? Is it liberating? Is it terrifying? Is it both? Is a new beginning something you've been putting off for 30, 40 years, and maybe now is the time? Yom Kippur, how do you handle being honest about yourself? How do you handle being honest about the people in your life? And what will you do about it? It's a tough question, and it's one we often avoid. But Yom Kippur asks us, are we willing to live by the truth of our lives? And that takes a lot of courage. Sukkot, how do you handle being happy with what you have? We as a people don't do happiness instinctively well. That's why we have holidays that command us to be happy. Right? If we were pretty happy most of the time, we wouldn't need a holiday called Time of Our Happiness. Right? When I was thinking about like parents telling the kids, eat your vegetables, no parent ever said, and don't forget to finish your chocolate sundae. You didn't have to be told that. So I think it's kind of funny that we had a holiday that says, no, you're allowed to be happy. It's really okay. Shmini Atzeret. First of all, Rabbi Nosmanrich and I, we've been talking about, we don't know what it is. And it's not like we didn't go to school. Like, nobody knows what this one is. Thank you for showing up anyway. Shmini Chag HaAtzeret, the 8th day of the holiday of Atzeret. But it's not the 8th day of Sukkot. Sukkot's still 7 days, even outside of Israel. Do any of you know what this is? Larry, do you know? No, nobody knows. And that's the beauty of it. It's just pure holiday. And the question the Shmini Atzeret actually asks is, how do you handle things when there's nothing to do but just be yourself and be with other people who matter to you? It's a day utterly filled with nothing. Can you handle that? Can you handle just being with other people? Can you handle just being yourself when there's nothing else to do? Hanukkah, how do you know when to take action? How do you know when you are brave? Purim, when do you stand up for who you are, and when do you back off for another day? It's been a challenge through Jewish history. It's the story of Masada, it's the story of the Talmud. When do you fight? When do you wait? And how do you know? These are very, very difficult questions, but that's what every situation has asked us of danger. And Shabbat, which is the holiday, it comes so often, we completely take it for granted. I'll ask people, when's the next holiday? And they'll be like, Hanukkah. It's like, no, it's Shabbos. We take for granted what happens regularly, including the people in our lives. Shabbat asks, can you live by the rhythms of the universe? Can you find a way to detach from the sort of craziness of the world? And it's not easy. So the question to think about for yourself is, which holiday is the most you? Which holiday do you do the best? And which holiday do you have the hardest time with? Do you have a hard time facing the idea of a new beginning? Do you have a hard time being happy? Do you have a hard time with being brave? Yizkor doesn't mean to remember in your head. Yizkor really means to proclaim who you are and what matters to you. So the question I ultimately have then is, who will you say you are this year? Which holiday are you? What are you willing to do in order to feel a sense of fulfillment, to feel a sense that things matter? I don't think a single one of us thought last Shmini Atzeret of what would be happening then, when I was thinking that while we were saying Yizkor on Shmini Atzeret, all these terrible things were happening in Israel. And Israel's never had a war that lasted this long. And it's difficult and it's challenging and painful in so many ways, but we're still here. We still proclaim who we are. We do know what the questions are. All we have to do is find the strength to answer them.